You know, I usually start this off with saying, you know, how do you like the weather in Cumberland County? But being in Cookeville, you understand what's going on here.
Yes, sir.
My first question is number 1 on your list, and it describe all experience you've had in public education and how such experience has specifically prepared you for the job of Director of Schools in Cumberland County.
I've had a very diverse experience in education. I've been able to wear a lot of different hats. I was a classroom teacher. I taught band like my father did. And I was fortunate as a band director to actually get to open up and create a brand new band program at a school in Rutherford County that was new. So that was exciting, getting to oversee all that. I've been an assistant principal at a high school and a middle school, and I've also been principal at a middle school and a high school. So I've been able to work at several different levels of education. What I've learned through those experiences as far as leadership, I'm able to work through budgets. I've had to do budgets for many years and many different levels as well as a company commander. I'm still a company commander for the Tennessee Guard, so I have to meet all those fiscal responsibilities as well as operational responsibilities. And I've wore other hats as well. When I was a classroom teacher, I worked for PCEA. I was on the negotiations team. I also became president of PCEA. The next year, I was assistant principal, so now I work for the board on negotiations, and I've also got extensive experience in collaborative conferencing. And now, currently in Putnam County, I also help with the Teach and Lead Aspiring Administrators Program, and we call it Teach and Lead. And I'm at the 3rd level, and that's the last level that they're receiving training before they go in and start interviewing to be assistant principals and administrators. And I also work as a lead principal for the high schools, and I also a mentor to some new principals. They'll give me a call and come out and we'll work through their new job and doing needs assessments and that sort of thing. So I've worn many hats, and I feel all those experiences qualify me to be the Director of Schools here at Cumberland County.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Pierce.
Okay. I don't know where I got lost for a minute there. But anyway, my question was number 2 on your list. What are the most important characteristics a director of schools should possess?
Yes, ma'am. I think the most important characteristics a director of schools should possess is number 1, integrity. I think you should always be honest and have strong moral principles. I think that is a foundation of being successful in anything in life. That also leads to transparency. To be honest, you have to be transparent with everyone involved, all stakeholders. And that builds trust. And once we have trust, then we're able to really move forward to be successful. And then I also believe to have that transparency, you have to have excellent communication skills. Communicate frequently, make sure you communicate specifically to your certain groups, and also collectively with the whole school system and the community. So I believe that integrity, transparency, and great communication skills are the characteristics needed by a director of schools.
Thank you.
Ms. Hale.
I'm sorry. Hello, thank you for coming.
Yes, ma'am.
My question is question number 8. How would you develop and maintain a high morale among district employees?
Well, I believe transparency builds the trust and good communication, and I believe once you've created I call it a purposeful community, but once you've shown the staff, all employees that you appreciate their work, they're always going to provide more than what you ask for. So I think you need to show that you appreciate them, that you support them, and that you're there with them to make sure Cumberland County schools are the best it can be.
Thank you.
My first question is number 4. Describe your goals for education in Cumberland County.
Well, I think it's going to be very similar to a lot of the upper Cumberland school systems. I think, first of all, with the learning loss, we got to address student academic success. I believe we have to work on providing guaranteed, viable curriculum at every level that the teachers trust and are willing to follow with fidelity so that we can reduce variability from classroom to classroom. When we start reducing variability from classroom to classroom, we start showing gains. When we start showing gains in all the classrooms, then we start showing gains in schools and then as a school system. So that student academic success is hugely important. And something else that is negatively affecting that academic success is our teacher shortage. So we must come up with a strategic plan on how to approach that and how to attract the best of the best, but also how to keep the best of the best. They must feel appreciated and they want to work for Cumberland County. The other big item is also something that we're dealing with a lot more than we have before, and that's addressing all student needs. We're finding out now social emotional wellness. A lot of students, more students than I've ever dealt with, are struggling with that. We also have to deal with economically disadvantaged and just families in general that need help. So we want to make sure that we have a really strong coordinated school health program. We want to educate teachers on poverty. We want to educate teachers on special education. We want to educate them on how to handle all these families so that the students can come in and feel safe and they're ready to learn. They're ready to be a part of a successful school.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Brock.
Mr. Stepp, you probably have answered in part at least two of my questions, so good job already. But let me go ahead and narrow it down. My first question will be question number 3, if you need to reference it. It actually asks for 2 of the greatest challenges you feel like that a new director of schools would face. I want you to tell me the single one greatest challenge that you think a director would face, and how would you meet that challenge?
Well, I think it's very obvious it's the shortage of employees. I think for us to meet the student academic needs and meet all the other needs that children need, that we have to have great staff. We have to be able to staff every position. You're only as good as your weakest link, so we really have to figure out a way to attract the best of the best in all employees, not just teachers, but staff. We have to address any issues immediately, and then we got to create that trust within our school family, that we trust each other and we're willing to get each other's back, and we're always going to put the student first. Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll be question 18. How important is an organizational chart for director of schools, and will you have immediate recommendations for changes?
Let me address the second part first. Anytime I put on a new hat, join a new team, I go through an extensive needs assessment. So I would not initially foresee any quick changes. I would need to learn the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? Why are things set up the way they are set up? I'll need to know all angles before I would start making changes. But having an organizational chart in both of my jobs is hugely important. It delineates responsibility and accountability. It lets everyone know where they stand, where their support systems are, where they go for their resources, and it also shows where you can appeal if things aren't working out where your direct supervisor is. So I think it gives us very clear guidelines on chain of command and where we can feel that we can be supported and be able to held accountable. And when I say held accountable, what I mean is those supports, those interventions, those things that we do to help people be successful.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My first question is number 10. How can we better accommodate district parents suffering from economic disadvantage and or disabilities? And you kind of touched on that, but.
Absolutely. Just to elaborate a little bit on that, I believe we need to have high quality training for all employees in the school system, whether that's poverty training, whether that's training in special education, whatever that we're having issues with or that we need to find, we need to have highly trained staff to handle those situations as a team. One of the big components of that is the coordinator of school health. We really got to make sure they have their resources to identify these families, whether it's social and emotional wellness, whether it is economically disadvantaged, disabilities. They have to work with the special education department and school leadership to understand where these people are, what resources and what support they need. And that way we can be direct and be there to support them so that, once again, the students can come to school and be ready to learn, not just looking for a meal or a shower or clothes, but they're ready to come in and be with their friends.
Thank you.
May I follow up with that question?
Yes. Mr. Safety.
Mr. Brock,
Sir.
Do you recall the number of hours that a teacher would normally have for training, for extra training? You did a study many, many years back, and we started.
As far as in-service training,
In-service training.
it was in excess of 12, 13, 14 hours over and above what was being done during scheduled in-services. Is that what you're?
Yes.
So there are a couple of days, and then the requirement exceeded the days allotted,
Yes, sir.
which we had a moment to readjust that and give our teachers
So,
credit for.
following up with Mrs. Hamby's question, you stated that, in-service training and training is really, really important for our teachers. How do you see that taking place when the in-service training potentially exceeds the state requirement?
So in my current position, teachers are paid basically 30 more hours or 5 more days to train, whether it's on district goals, school initiatives. So to exceed that, I know that teachers and employees, they always work till the job's done. They're so dedicated to the students that they put that extra time in. So I feel as a school leader, it is my responsibility to be a good steward of their work hours, because I know they're grading papers into the night. I know certain teachers spend Sunday afternoons that for the past 20 years, that's when they're going to grade. That's when they're going to read their essays. They're going to spend that personal time. So I want to be a good steward of their personal time, and I want to make sure that within those 30 hours, if this is going to be a goal for the school year, that I'm able to figure out a way to fit it in with their already paid time. So that, I feel, is my responsibility as a leader. Now, does that always work out that way? No, sir. Student needs are my primary focus, so sometimes we talk to teachers about possibly coming out and doing a little extra work. Well, when they trust you and you have a purposeful community where we all believe the students are going to succeed and they're appreciated, they're going to be willing most of the time to put in that little extra more than what you've actually asked them to do. And that's what I've experienced at 2 different building levels. Those teachers exceed my expectations most of the time because we know together we are going to be successful.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My question is number 7.
Yes, ma'am.
Describe and explain your leadership style and how you believe it can benefit our district.
So this was an interesting question for me. I want to start out with what I feel my leadership style is, and then I conferred with colleagues and people I've worked with to kind of see what their opinion was, to make sure I always try to calibrate what I think with what the people I work with actually think. So I think I'm very direct, and what I mean by direct is that I'm with them. I'm there where all the work is being done. I'm working with them through problems. I'm working with them to be proactive, to have systems in place. I have very direct communication with employees, but I think that's part of being transparent. We all need to know what is going on, good and bad, so that we can build some trust so that we as a team will solve those problems. We'll work through them together. So I believe I'm very direct. I also think I'm agile. And I learned this the one year that my director of schools came into my office and sat down. He said, "What do you think about being the high school principal?" Oh, that sounds like a challenge I'd be willing to do. I like challenges. Well, what do you think about being over the middle school at the same time? Over the whole thing. So obviously that was a trick question, and I fell into that trap. But I said, "Well, sir, I work for you, so if that's a challenge you'd like me to take, I will take it." And what I mean by agile is I'm not only able to move quickly from problem to problem and problem solve not only successful things, but I can jump right back into the frying pan and have to work on very complex issues that require difficult decisions. And I had to do that between 2 buildings. And most of that took a lot of critical thinking, having a threshold for understanding people, a lot deeper than what I had to have before with a lot less people, and a golf cart. Flying back and forth to every door. So if there was a fire to put out, that golf cart went to that door where that fire was. And that was about the only way I could figure out to still maintain my visibility and my contact with every person in the building. Because at that time, the middle school became a reward school that year. I had level 5 teachers all over the building. I had time to put the right people in the right places, and they were excelling. And I went to the high school, and at the time it was a level 1 school with a lot of people that needed extra support, resources, and plans so that they could be successful. Because for me, I have a very high expectation, but I also give a lot of support through accountability so that teachers can be successful, so that we can be proactive before we get to those difficult decisions. So Agile, that's where I learned how to do that. Well, I spoke with my colleagues, and they kind of laughed at my comment about direct and agile, because they said, okay, we can see why you say that. But their opinion was more the servant leader. They said, you're always with us, you're always making decisions with us, you're always coming and asking our opinion. If the problem comes up, or even if it's scheduled for the next day because we're coming in late, you always confer with your teacher leaders. What do you feel the teachers think would be the most successful thing and that they can work with? So that was their opinion, was the servant leader. And I said, thank you. So I believe I'm direct and agile, but my colleagues call it servant leadership.
All right, Mr. Safety, your second question.
All right, this is just getting down to the nitty-gritty. This is question number 13, but I'm going to revise it just a little bit. What do you know about BEP, and what experiences have you had with the fiscal operations of a school system or the school?
Well, I worked with BEP my whole career as a principal. So we go through the BEP formula in the building. Every principal goes through that BEP formula. And it's a funding formula, not a spending formula, as we know. I have a lot of extra supports in my building not included in the BEP. Just to give you one example, I have 2 assistant principals, and the BEP formula only allows me 1.5. So I don't know what the 0.5 looks like, but that's what BEP says. So I've had to spend many hours going through budgets, budget analysis, and BEP formulas so I can justify to my director why I want another CTE program, why I want to go from one AP class my first year at high school to an AP department. So there's AP programs in every content area, core content area. Why do I need that? How can I justify that? Where does it fit within the scheme of scheduling, knowing how many students are allowed in every classroom? It's different from CTE to regular classroom. So all those formulas, all the fiscal operations, I have to know the ins and outs so I can fight for my school, my building, to make sure we get that funding so that I give the students the absolute best opportunities that they can have.
May I follow up with one
Yes,
other
sir.
question? Did you ever have a chance of working with the chief financial officer or have conversations with a chief financial officer?
Yes, sir. So as a middle school principal, I was on one of the main people on the planning for the new middle school that was built down there. My 3rd year, I believe 4th year, maybe it was my 4th year, but for 2 years I was on the planning committee for that. And I had to work directly with the CFO on all the furnishings and justification for the furnishings, the budgeting of the furnishings. I worked directly with him, the bidding process, how that works, what bids can come in that we can accept, what can we show that they don't fit our needs, to look at another budget that does fit our needs, but it might be just slightly more. But when you compare goods or services, you have to take that into consideration.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Inman.
You're welcome. Ms. Paris.
Yes, Mr. Stepp, I ask question number 5.
Yes, ma'am.
Describe what an ideal Board of Education would do to assist you with those goals.
My whole concept of being successful of any organization is a team concept. I would hope that I could be a partner with you and that we could be transparent with all information that flows back and forth. You have constituents that elected you to be here. So I need to know what their values are, what they need, what they expect from a school system, and then work with you on how we do that collectively to meet all of those goals. So I would definitely want to be a partner with you, transparency both ways, so that we can build that trust to know that we are going to lead a highly successful school system.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Hale?
My second question was number 15. How would you go about determining the current needs and concerns of the district's teachers and non-certified staff?
I've gone through this process twice with a middle school and a high school, and I'd be very similar in how I would take that approach. Obviously, there's surveys that are already out there. The educator survey, you got family-friendly survey. Parents, some parents are very vocal on what they feel is going on in the building. Mostly some of the negative stuff, but there might be truth in that. But I'm also out with the employees. I meet either with the teacher leaders first, I go room to room, I meet with any support system that's in place. I spend my time talking with cafeteria workers, bus drivers. I'm always out saying hi to them. I try to get an overall feel of where we are as a community in a building, and then that would be the same as the school system. Where are we as a community, as a school system? Are we already a team? Or are there hot spots that we need to go in and provide more support and encouragement so that they could become part of the team? You can use surveys. There's many different ways, meeting with teachers one-on-one. A lot of times when you find a lot of difficult things going on, the teachers want to be anonymous, so that's why it's important to provide an anonymous way to voice their concerns so that we can address those and be successful.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
All right, my second question is number 16. How would you define the term open door policy, and would you have one?
Yes, sir. I define that as being available. And the reason I say that is anyone that's come to find me at Upperman High School where I'm at, I won't be in my office. I'm always out with the teachers. I'm out with the students. So open door policy is being available. As a director of schools, I definitely would have an open door policy. But I also want to address any issues that come up to make sure that we've went through the organizational chart and whoever was at that point as we work through that situation. But I will always be the appealing authority. I can handle all kinds of complex issues with parents, with community. I deal with all kinds of that in the small community where I work. It's a very tight-knit community, but they know who I am. I'm out in the community. The elected officials know they can call me whenever they want. I get calls from the chief of police every now and then, the mayor. We all work together. However, we also work together by including them. So I have them come in and they'll judge the homecoming doors, or they'll come in and work with our health science class, stuff like that, where I can include them to come in and be a part of the team.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Brock?
State government and special interest groups. This is question number 25 for reference. State government and special interest groups in recent years have started demanding a greater voice in how local school districts function.
Yes, sir.
As our director of schools, how would you respond to those demands?
The special interests of some groups are not the special interests of Cumberland County. So I think the school system represents the value system of Cumberland County. I believe you are elected to be here to be sure that we stick with that value system. So I will listen. I will always listen. I will be transparent with you. This is what has come up. These are some of the issues that we will be working through with them. I would hope as a team we can discuss it. Is it going to benefit our child? Is it not going to benefit our children? Or how would that fit in if we did want to include that? Now, when it comes to state and federal regulations, I've been through that process also. You probably saw our football team on Fox News. So I got the call that there's a formal complaint that came in from the NAACP of our employees leading prayer with children. They cited several different pictures that we had on our website. So I had to work through that process with the director of schools to be compliant, because there are laws, there are regulations that even though your value system says this, we still have to meet what is required by law. So we came up with a system, we worked through that. Baxter is a very proud town, and they obviously showed the world that they were going to pray. So that was their value system in their community, and I was proud that they were able to share that with the world. But as an employee of Putnam County Schools, I had to be compliant, and I had to come up with a system that was least damaging to that value system. So that was a very challenging time. But we already had a community that trusted me, I trusted the parents, and we were able to work through it reasonably, and they came up with many other ways to practice their value system.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Question 19.
Yes, sir.
How do you feel that grade retention, that is the repeating of grades or classes, impacts student success?
There's a lot of research out there about grade retention. I'm sure y'all have had Hattie quote it to you and many other things, but the biggest find that I get out of that research is that to help students, grade retention is close to the bottom of the list. So to hold a child back for a year, they're 50% more likely to not graduate with a high school diploma. I can't imagine what it looks like if you hold them back 2 years. We target kids as freshmen. How old are they? Where are they with how many diploma credits they have? What do we need to do to catch them up? We have some kids that'll take 2 or 3 credits in the summer. They'll turn 18 their junior year, but they also graduate their junior year. So we must look at being proactive so that grade retention is not the answer. Now, is it needed sometimes? In some very extreme cases. There's been some medical conditions where we had to do it. There's been some other extreme situations with foster children and other ways where they just needed more support. So that does come about, and you do want to weigh the pros and cons of it. But in general, we want to be proactive. We want to make sure we have enough interventions in place to support those children and catch that before we get to the end of the year and all of a sudden we say, we're going to hold you back.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I switched it up a minute ago and asked the wrong question, so I'll ask this one now. Number 11. What are your strategies for ensuring equal opportunities for all students in Cumberland County Schools?
Well, as I said before, when it comes to academics, we got to ensure there's a guaranteed viable curriculum at every grade, every classroom, that we provide the training support to teachers that they'll trust that system. And I believe CKLA, in my experience of watching my colleagues in Putnam County, is a great curriculum that's going to show a lot of success. The success comes from every teacher trusting that curriculum, having the training to utilize that curriculum. And as I said before, they're using it with fidelity every day, which reduces variability from classroom to classroom, school to school. Then we see that huge success. So I think when we're talking about academics, we are responsible for providing the best academics in every building, but also the teachers have the training and support to feel confident that this is how we're going to be successful with students. When it comes to other opportunities, we run into other situations. Some schools are smaller than other schools. It might be more expensive to find a way to provide those opportunities to the smaller schools. You might have to come up with system and procedures in place so that smaller schools have the same opportunity as the larger schools. But we have to come up with a strategic plan where every child has equal access to any opportunity in Cumberland County.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Question number 27.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you believe to be the role of the Board of Education in district leadership as compared to that of the Director of Schools?
Well, as I mentioned before, I want to be a partner with the Board of Education. I want us to be on the same page. I want us to be transparent. We all know expectations. You are elected officials, so you do have opinions that are sent to you. I'm open to listening, and then we collectively come up with what we feel is the best way to approach an issue. When it comes to district leadership, I have an excellent background in putting the right people in the right places. I will be completely transparent with the board on why I think certain people should be in certain places, and how do I know that they will be great in that place. Or if there's somebody that might not be the right fit right now, but we feel that can be the right fit, then I'll be transparent with you on those support measures and training that I will do side by side with that person to make sure we're still having great leadership in that position, because obviously students come first and we all need to focus on what's best for the child.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Safety.
I'm going to read you the question, but then I'm going to modify it a little bit.
Yes.
I've done this with all interviews. How should we improve reading and math competency levels in our district? And I'm going to only address the issue of reading. And the state, our state report and our student competency level is about 30%. So that at the third grade, 30% of our students are only competent, which means about 70% are not competent, although they may be on track, they're not competent. Our teachers are doing an excellent job. Our principals are doing an excellent job. But somehow they're hamstrung, not in a negative way. What is your vision of why we have only 30% of our students competent at the third grade? And what is the missing link that would unwind our teachers and move and progress forward with our students?
I do believe teachers are working hard, and I do believe that this is not an anomaly. This is not something that is uncommon in all the districts in Upper Cumberland. We've had an extreme learning loss through all the challenges that we worked through, and we all worked our tails off to work through those challenges. So this, I don't believe, is an anomaly, but there is a gap. There is some place that we need to look to come up with a way to start increasing our academic success. And as I talked about earlier, that's that guaranteed viable curriculum, support system, and resources in place for teachers, and they're trained up and ready to tackle the learning loss. And I believe Cumberland County has made a really good move with the CKLA. It's a program that uses the science of reading as a viable curriculum that teachers can use across every classroom. And I went through a training last year also because of this learning loss. Now I know it's not an anomaly because it's happened in every county. So I joined in with our elementary principals last year, and I went through letters training, which is also a program for younger students that'll supplement the CKLA in Putnam County that is also based off the science of reading, so that I can start understanding what are the best possible ways, what are the strategies that teachers need so we can address the learning loss and start seeing success. And we're a few years into the process, and they are starting to see a lot of success with that program.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Parrish, your third question?
Yes, third question is question number 12. How seriously should our school district take bullying, and what can we do better?
Student safety is number one. That will always be at the top of my list. Anytime bullying comes into play, that is the social, emotional wellness of a child, their safety, their wanting to be there to learn. I believe we tackle this head on, be very direct in our approach. State law is very clear on how to handle bullying. Sometimes it's not bullying. So that's when we need to educate families and teachers and students on what is and what isn't. But when it is, you have to have a thorough investigation. You have to have multiple eyes on that investigation. That is not for one person to do. That is for multiple people to have eyes on it, collecting information, and coming up with how this is bullying, what part is bullying, and then also I rely on our code of conduct. That policy measures out the levels of misbehavior, and depending on which level that hits, the consequences go with that. But we have to educate. We have to be proactive. Anytime we talk about things, difficult decisions, bullying is very difficult to deal with, but you have to be very precise and be right on top of it to handle the safety of that child. So I believe bullying has to be addressed immediately, proactively. We must educate families, we must educate teachers, administrators, and the students on what bullying and harassment actually is.
Ms. Hale?
Okay, my question was number 20. My third question is number 20. How important should career and technical education be in our school district, and what impact should CTE have on graduation readiness in our district?
Well, career technical education was one of the major focuses I immediately took when I took over the high school. We had programs, but we needed more programs. I always believe you got to find a place where the students want to be at school, but we also have to prepare them for the workforce. So I looked at what are those CTE programs that are in my community that will feed directly into our industry workforce, because a lot of students go straight into the workforce. And one of those for me, an example for me, was the distribution and logistics. We worked through TCAT. They could work for Academy. Academy actually adopted our school because of that program. And they can work at Academy, FACOSA, Avery, but I have to know what is out there, what is their need, and then how can we address that. And obviously through CTE, you can get industrial certs. Those industrial certs will put you ahead of the student that does not have that when they go out into the workforce. And then on top of the industrial certs, if they get 2 more early post-secondary opportunities after that, then that counts towards our accountability measures in this county. So that makes them a ready graduate. Well, that's important because I know through your policy sessions, you're looking at TISA. TISA looks at ready graduates as part of how you can earn money into your county. So we are looking at how we're going to shore up those ready graduates. How am I providing the other early post-secondary opportunities so that we have many options for those children to benefit from the programs, but also for the county to benefit through the funding option that will soon be teased a couple of years down the road.
My third question is number 22. Explain your experience with and knowledge of RTI squared initiatives and provide your opinion as to how well they work in our district.
So I've worked with RTI squared since it began. I've been a principal since it was first started in the state of Tennessee. I've went through the growing pains of how do we fit it into scheduling at the middle school level? How do we still provide all the other opportunities for kids who are being pulled out and losing that opportunity to go to RTI for deficit training? So I've went through the struggles of working with parents on why it's important for us to work with that child on their deficit to get back to grade level. And one major focus that I learned early on is Tier 1 of RTI squared. Tier 1 is every teacher in the building. That is the instruction that you do in your classroom, your strategies you use to keep that child on grade level. And we focus on the highest yielding learning strategies. We focus on the best teaching strategies. That is part of my training I do with the teachers at the beginning of the year. We decide what does it look like in 5th grade? What does this look like in the English department at the high school? And we work together as a team on how we're going to make sure we're including those best strategies at Tier 1. But we still have students that end up having deficits, so they go to Tier 2, or if they're several years behind, they go to Tier 3. And we make sure we have a viable curriculum that addresses those deficits, those skill deficits. We're not talking about standards in the classroom. We're talking about actual skills that get them on grade level. So we focus on those through programming and through training of those teachers that are certified teachers, either in literacy or numeracy. So we must focus on that side. And the goal is to bring the kids back to grade level. The goal is not to let them keep falling behind and eventually going to sped. We focus on student success. We focus on moving them forward. And that's part of being proactive to not end up talking about grade retention.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
A recurring theme throughout every explanation and answer you've given has been to have quality people around you.
Yes, sir.
I know you don't need a reference, but just in case, this would be question number 23. How would you recruit and retain those high-quality people that you would need, that we all need?
Money. No, I'm just kidding. Compensation packages are important. The success I've had attracting the best of the best, and that's whether it's a certified teacher, a staff member, anyone that works with the community that I'm tasked to be the leader is environment and culture. You have to be able to build a purposeful community. You have to have agreed upon processes. That's the whole set of employees that decide these are the things we're going to focus on to be successful. And what that creates is a collective efficacy. That collective efficacy is that we all believe as a team that every child will succeed in this building. And that is the first line that I start every year out. If you're in this room, then you're going to be a part of our team, and every child will succeed. So, and the reason I bring culture and environment up, teachers talk to teachers, and the best teachers talk to the best teachers. And my experience is I get phone calls, I've already gotten emails this year, Steph, you got any openings? I'd love to come work with your team. I talked to so-and-so, especially with teacher assistants and staff. We've heard it's a great environment. We heard it's a part of a family. There's not a hierarchy where you have supervisors, you know, pounding down on employees. It is a family. We're all colleagues, we all work together, we all have each other's back, and it's a respectful culture. And it 100% works in attracting, in my experience, at the middle school level and the high school, attracting the best of the best. And that's how the middle school experience, I was able to get all those people together. They were coming from all over when I was hiring teachers each year, and ended up being a reward school. It was the same at the high school. Had a big turnover there. I had no issue with hiring the best of the best because they knew if they come in and worked with me, we would be a team and we would focus on the right things, the things that matter. And that's how I attracted the best of the best.
Just quick. Will that same plan work with recruiting, retaining, support staff?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, is all employees. So I had great support staff in other buildings. They were ready for a change for whatever reason. They were an awesome teacher assistant. They loved on the kids. They worked in a specific area. That was amazing talents to work in certain areas that I don't have the talents of. They called me. I heard you had a person not coming back. Can I come? I would like to work in that classroom in that building. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Come on in. Let's walk and talk. Let's go look. Let's see what's going on. Let's see if it's a good fit for you. And we talk through those situations. It's cafeteria workers have come to the building because they know it's a great environment. The kids focus on academics. We don't have, it's very low magnitude, I guess is what I call it. And assistant principal that I hired that had been a couple of turnaround programs in Florida, been in Asheville, North Carolina. I talked him into coming in. He believed in my vision. That was my first year, so we hadn't had the success yet. And at the end of that first year, we had a lot of success, and he called it the vacation for administrators because it was low magnitude. We were focusing on the right things. We were focused on academic, student success. We were not focusing on punishing kids anymore. So they love that environment. I think any person, any adult would love to work in that environment. I'm not saying it's perfect. We still have that side that we deal with, but it is a very great environment to work in.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Number 24.
Yes, sir.
This is interwoven into all your answers already, but I'm going to ask you so you can expand if you want to. What importance do you place on having a student-centered approach to learning in our district?
Well, I believe that's why I'm in education. I love public education because I love kids. I mean, I want to see students succeed. That's been my whole career. It's an amazing feeling as a band director when you have an amazing concert and these kids get all of these succeed. But I guess the biggest success I found in that is that I had them in beginning band, and I know how awful it was, and how great it is once we get to the high school level. And that success makes confidence in students. And I love doing it as a school leader. It's been a lot of fun to see fifth graders. 2 years ago, I had that senior class 5th through 12th grade. So I had them every year. So I got to see how they grow. I got to see how the systems and procedures that we had in place made them successful. I got to see the graduation rate going up because the students like coming to school. And I got to see that over an 8-year period. And I think it's an amazing feeling as an educator to be a part of a team that's created a high reliable organization for students. Everything focuses on student success.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Number 26. Will you require district staff to respect members of the board with the questions they may have and requests for information?
So the way, my norm for my teachers at the beginning of the year is I expect you to be professional. That's my norm. In a meeting, in countywide meetings, in my meeting, you need to act like a professional. And being a professional is respecting. Respecting your colleagues, respecting the person that is your department chair, respecting the chain of command, respecting the board member. And what I mean by that, and I learned this in my other job very clearly, you respect that position. Doesn't matter if you like that person, you respect that position. And professionalism requires you to have respect. We cannot be successful if we're going to go out and have arguments about who's right and wrong and what your opinion is, what other opinion. In education, to be professional, we have to have discussions on what is the right decision or the right way to go for students to succeed. But when I say that norm professional, the teachers on my team, on our team, we know that means be respectful. They will not be the teachers in a countywide in-service, sit in the back and read a newspaper and talk the whole time. They know better. So we have an image to take, and we are going to be professional, and we are going to handle our business the way we do it for our team.
Okay, just to follow up on that, and I know you keep saying teachers, but as a director of schools, you would have many, okay. Thank you.
Because that's a team. In the buildings that I run, we're all colleagues. There's not a hierarchy. So it's come now finally at the high school where it's a family environment. So we work as a family, we struggle as a family, but we always love each other. And I say this all the time to teachers, you gotta love on the kids. And I said, if we can love on the kids as much as a kindergarten teacher does, we'd be a 26 ACT already. So my point is we're a family and we're going to be successful.
I thought that's what you meant, I just wanted to
Yes, ma'am.
clarify. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
The next question is number 29. How do you approach difficult decisions?
Slowly. Do not rush in, do not fly in, do not make decisions by the seat of your pants. You need to have a system in place in your mind on how to handle very conflicting situations, complicated situations. You must know all angles, and you must be confident that you're able to put the pieces together before you make a decision. I had a full year, my first year at the high school, to find supports, to find resources, to try to make every adult in that building successful. Not everyone agreed with me, to say the least. But we all came to consensus. However, once you get to the end of the year, there's difficult decisions you have to make. You have to look people in the eye. You have to talk through issues. You got difficult decisions with parents. They come in, the most important thing in the world is that child right there. And even though I have 843 others flying around me, I have to be able to sit and listen. And then we talk together to come up with the right decision. But I approach anytime something ends up being a difficult decision, I approach it calmly, respectfully. I always be nice. I need to know all information before I do anything. And then I need to have a discussion with whoever's involved on what's the best course of action.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Safety, your fourth question.
In what ways, I'm going to read this question, I'm going to modify it just a little bit for you. In what way should a director, this is question number 6, in what way should a director of schools make a Board of Education more effective? And my question to you is what do you see your role as with the Board of Education?
So anytime we're working as a team, the way I can help you do your job better is to be transparent, provide you with the information you need. The last thing anyone likes is to get blindsided by a phone call about something you don't know, you don't have the information on. And why don't I have that information? I understand that side of things very well. So I'm going to be transparent with you, and I'm going to have conversations with you. I'm going to make sure we're going the right direction with the school system. I feel that's how I can help y'all be effective with your constituents and running the school system.
Thank you.
The second part of your question, sir?
Yes, go ahead.
What was that? I'm sorry.
How do you make the board more effective And then the second part was, what do you see your role as with the board?
As I would like to be a partner with the board, as I talked about before. I know I'm your employee, and I know that I need to communicate clearly and succinctly and be very, provide clarity on any issues that you need to know about. So I feel I need to be your partner, and I feel that I need to make sure that you know exactly what is going on, where I'm at on issues, where you are at an issue, and we work together as a team to make the school system as successful as possible.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, Ms. Parrish passed on a fourth question. She did not ask one, so Ms. Hale, and we're starting to run tight on time, so we need to kind of pick it up a little bit.
Right, well, I'm sure he's already answered mine. I said, how visible should a director be in our schools? And you've already answered that several times, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
That's the best question all night.
My fourth question is, what experience do you have in dealing with federal programs or ESSER funds?
When I worked as a middle school principal, I was over the Title I budget. I had to make sure that I could justify all needs of that budget. I had to also make sure it aligns with the school improvement plan, and I also had to make sure that all parties involved that were supposed to be there to create that plan were involved throughout that whole process, obviously working directly with the federal programs coordinator. At the time when I was Title I, there was 10 components that we had to include to justify our funding that we had to include in our school improvement plan. So I've been through that process as Title I for 6 years and always led those meetings and led from the front. And then ESSER, I'm working as a principal, currently working with the director of schools on where it impacts Upperman High School through my needs assessment. What personnel do we need to add to help with like RTI and other programs that are specialized programs. And through the 3.0, we're already having discussions on expansion of the Upperman High School building because of growth of CTE programs. And that's been my primary experience, and they lean on me a lot on the the growth side because of my experience with several different building projects.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brock?
Billy, this may be the most important question to the teachers and students of Cumberland County that I could ask. If you were the director of schools in Cumberland County, would you have called school off this morning? Do not answer that. Do not answer that. Do not answer that. We're out of time, folks. We need to give him time to speak, so.
Okay.
The answer is yes.
But Mr. Stepp, I assure you that will be a frequent concern.
Mr. King?
Should you join us?
What time are we at?
We're at 54 minutes.
Okay, so
I should let him answer that. You would be into the fight.
So
okay,
I think he's already answered my question.
Okay.
Anyway, so we're up to time for him to do his 5 minutes.
okay. Like I said, we were saving the last 5 minutes for you to give a closing statement or discuss anything you feel like we've not discussed.
Ask questions.
Or you can ask us questions or anything. Yes, sir. So you've got 5 minutes.
I just want to say I'm humbled by this experience, being able to come in. I'm honored to be able to come in and be able to speak with you this morning about the director of schools job. As a graduate of Cumberland County, I would think it would be an extreme honor to be able to come back and continue my full circle career where I started my career. We actually started here in City Elementary. So I even got paddled here, I think, for tracking in mud from the playground. Sorry, I'm having flashbacks here.
Were you paddled by your dad?
No, my dad.
Him.
If anyone knows my dad, at the beginning of the year, we went to every classroom and said, "You just paddle and call me later." So everybody knows my dad well. But it would be an honor to be here as your director of schools, and I thank you so much for having me here this morning. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You did a great job.
Yes.
And appreciate you being here.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, we'll take about a 15-minute break.